Welcome, guys. Greeting to all. Let's now review how the setup of our local database. So basically, for our database, we are using MySQL, and we are using the platform to run our MySQL. Our MySQL will be MySQL Workbench. So you need to be able to download and to set your MySQL Workbench into your machine. So basically, I already create a database with this name DB Les Bonnes Affaires. This is the name of the database that has been created. When you created the database, you need to now insert those query into the table called role. This is the table name, and into that table we are going to insert those value: role user, role moderator, and role admin. That will help us to set the user privilege. So basically what we mean by user privilege is admin can perform some operation that a moderator cannot, and also that a user cannot perform. Admin has more privilege to an application. That's why we set admin role. Then we may also have the moderator user. Basically, he has less privilege than the admin, but more privilege than the common user. It is also sometimes useful to set this kind of user. And lastly, we have the role user, which is a common privilege that anybody can have into the application. So basically, what we mean by all of that is admin can have more privilege. That means it can perform more operation on the application or on the data. The role moderator can also perform some of the operations, but not all. And the user can only perform common operation on the application or data. So let's check. I already ran this select from to see. First and foremost, let's just run this query here to see how the table is going to show on the database. So basically, we have the role user, and we have the ID1 for that role user, the ID2 for role moderator, and the ID3 for the role admin. Those ID will be used from the Spring Boot application to identify the particular role name. And based on that, those roles are going to be assigned to each user and help a particular user to perform some operations. And like you remember, as you remember that the role admin has more privilege than the role moderator, and which has more privilege than the user. This one is going to be considered as a super user if you want. So when that has been said, we can now select because I already inserted some data for users. I already inserted some users data. So let's run this query to see who are the user already in the database. So in the database we already have admin user. I already inserted an admin user. As you can see, this in the username. This is API admin to identify the admin user. We also have the API mode for the moderator user and API user. So I already inserted those users into the database. And if you want to understand actually what's going on into this one, let me add one more query to see how it plays around from db Les Affaires dot user role. This user role, basically what it does is matching matching a particular user to a defined or particular role. And this is what we are going to see here. Remember that for this table, we have the ID. They are all identified by ID, and we have ID1, ID2, ID3. ID1 define the is supposed to define the admin user. ID2 define the API, the moderator user. ID3 define the user role. And if you remember, for the role, let me again run that query. The role one for the ID for user one. The role one define a common user. The ID2 define a role moderator, and the ID3 define a role admin. So now if we run this user role query, which I believe it is a one-to-many or many-to-many relationship, let's see. We can see that from the role ID, that means this table, this role ID map to that user ID, this role ID map to that user ID, this role ID map to that user ID, and this role ID map to one. So I believe that for the user, let's focus on this one. For the user role ID 1, let's check again. For the user role 1, which is a common user, so meaning if we run this one again, meaning that the user 2, let's see who is the user 2. The user 2, who is a moderator, has this privilege. And now if we check again, okay, so the user 2 has this privilege, and I believe that the user 2 has also the moderator and the user privilege. This is for user 2. Now the user 3, let's check the user 3. The user 3, who is a common user, which, let's check which role does he have. The common user is supposed to have role 1, and role 1, if you remember, role 1, it is for the common user. Yes, role user, great. And then I believe that for the role 3, the role 3 is going to be the first user. Let's check again. The role 3 is going to go for the first user, who is the admin. So everything looks good. So that means we have for each user has a particular role. Let's go back to the selected role again. Let's go back to the users. So each users is only assigned to a particular role privilege, and we have the user ID 1, who is assigned the admin privilege, the user ID 2, who is assigned to the moderator privilege, and the user ID 3, who is assigned to the common user privilege. So from here, our database is set and ready to be used. Don't forget to set MySQL Workbench from your local to create the database and insert that those first query, and then you can either manually enter role users with role users. And also, before we leave, I almost forgot. I already inserted one tutorial. So basically, let's check this one. So this table here, it is based on you can only insert a tutorial based on your role. So basically, you can only insert a tutorial which has a description and publish, and which has a description and publish and title. If you have the admin role, only an admin role can create tutorials. If I also believe that the moderator role can also I think it can either edit or create, I'm not sure, but a common user, meaning role user, can only view you can only view tutorials. It cannot add or edit or delete. Yes, I believe that the admin user has the privilege to add, delete, and edit. The moderator can only delete, but can only can only update or edit, but he cannot delete. And the user can only view the tutorials, but he cannot do any kind of other operation. He can only read. So that will conclude our database setup. Now we are going to go to the Spring Boot application. Thank you for watching this video, and let's see each other for the next step. Thank you so much.